All right, everybody's talking about a possible recession. Regular used cars keep plummeting in value. But on Bring a Trailer, are collector and classic cars, are their prices surging? Man, when you see the results of some of our predictions from the last episode, you might just say yes. We have new predictions. We're going to see if they will match up to what we're talking about tonight. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. Yes, it is. Welcome, everyone. This is a live episode of Bid Nerds, your, twice a week nerd out on the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. My name is John Polnik, coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, in San Francisco. We had Cars und Cafe today in San Francisco and Las Vegas. Our event here was great. God and Porsche, of course, came out, brought some killer cars. Deeb, how'd it go in Marin?
Dude, it was awesome. Yeah, happy Cars und Cafe Sunday, which signifies the end of the month. It also terrifies me. We have to pay rent next week. But yeah, dude, it was great. It was overcast, so it wasn't too hot today. We had a nice little turnout. It was a little softer than usual, but Pacino coffee truck, the Airstream was in full form, and guys brought their ladies. We got to meet some significant others, and I don't know, just it was lots of hugs, and we had a really good time, JP. I miss being at the Vegas show. Believe it or not, John, if you can imagine, I haven't been to your new location across the street. Whenever I see you, when it's Cars and Cafe and you're going live, I get a little jealous, but now I have my own show to tend to, and it was a really fun day, and the 49ers won, so I'm happy to be here. We're all checked in and ready to rock.
Do you do a live on Instagram on your way there?
I am not John Polnik. I'm not producing.
Do that. It's amazing how many people actually watch that stupid thing. It's like every week I get in my car. I live, for those of you who don't know, I live 5 minutes from where we do the car show. It takes me more time to get out of my parking garage than it does to get to the show. And I just blather on about whatever while I'm driving. Like, okay, you're going for a ride with me to Cars and Cafe. And then I get there and I was thinking, why do I do this? This is nobody's watching. This is dumb. And then 20 minutes later, there'll be a bunch of people, I saw your live. This is cool. I've never heard of it. I'm like, that's why I do it. Okay, there it is. All right, guys.
Who's on Instagram at 6:30 in the morning in Las Vegas? Anyway,
right?
Those people were up all night.
I don't even want to be up. I'm just like, I think they're people that just haven't even gone to bed yet.
Exactly.
All right, guys, let's get to the show. It's time. We're looking at our Anthony Vieira Hoursmith watch, and it says it's time for Bid Nerds. All right, we are going to be giving this watch away at the end of the month, so look for details on that. This is a custom watch. You can't win. Sorry, you can't win, dude.
Come on!
Only they can win. You can't. You're not eligible.
This risk could be yours.
Yes, sir. Look, what's going on in the BAT thing right now? Everybody gives us crap for having thumbnails that are always talking about doom and gloom and crashes and collapses and all that kind of stuff. We got to do that stuff to get new people to watch the channel. But we really have seen some craziness in the market. But look, I think there's a price surge going on. There's some crazy results in specific sectors of the market. I don't think that new cars are doing very well. If you go to a car lot, if you go to a Chrysler lot, they can't sell Jeeps, they can't sell minivans, they can't sell anything that CDR tries to sell, CDRJ tries to sell. Most normal cars are not selling very well, but our collector cars and classic cars seem to be surging. Let's look at the results from last week and see if that matches up to my little theory here. What was the first car on the list?
All right, JP, let's see what we can learn by circling back to our 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye widebody that was on Bring a Trailer, showing just 4,900 miles from new out of Portland, Oregon, by everybody's favorite BAT seller, 911R, also known as Avant-Garde in brick and mortar. These guys have some of the best marketing. They can, JP, they can make you and I look sexy. That's how good their photography typically is. They ran this car no reserve, which I thought was, I think that really brings out the cojones. A lot of these cars have been trading in the secondary market over the last year or two for the low, I think the low $80,000 range. And we're talking specifically about the Hellcat Redeye wide body cars, which are really the sort of top of this brand. I mean, you can get a base Challenger, I think, with a V8 for like 50 something $1,000. But if you want all this, you're going to spend 90 grand, and those cars have typically held their value pretty well. But the market is soft, John. We thought this would be a good opportunity to look at a reasonably low mile car brought to market well by a reputable seller and running no reserve, which I think is an important piece here. JP, I took the bidding and I said, I think it'll sell for just a little bit below the average selling price of 82. I started bidding at 78,000. You took the under and went down below me to $75,000. Our car, of course, sold. Just 20 bids is all it took. But JP, that final number was just $68,500. I did mention earlier that a lot of those cars that we saw in the secondary market have unreasonably low miles. We're talking about cars that are bringing 80,000 and over. And I don't know what people might have been paying over sticker for Hellcat wide bodies, because as you said, everything else that CDJ is selling, they're giving it away. If you walk on the lot, they want to send you home with a gift basket of cars. But this car has a whopping 5,000 miles, which really shouldn't be a lot, but it seemed to be over a lot of the recent comps we've seen this calendar year. Still, that number is way below the average, JP. Read for us the tea leaves. We talk about surging, but it's not in the market of the domestic, overpriced muscle car category, is it?
Yeah, it's definitely the opposite direction for prices on these. I think this is what we're going to continue to see. This is just not a special car. We talked on the last episode a lot about douchebags because we talked about that that Lamborghini Countach, right? I mean, you know, we keep going back to that brand new Lamborghini Countach that had like 50 miles on it, or maybe it was 15 miles on it. Interestingly enough, the photographer of that car, the guy who actually shot that car for the seller, the Lamborghini, not this Hellcat, actually found us on our channel, and he wanted to set the record straight. And he was saying that the owner of that car is a great guy. He's an enthusiast. I think he lives in Florida or someplace where there aren't a lot of twisty roads or whatever. So I'm like, okay, that's nice.
He still never drove it,
but he still didn't drive it, and he still bought it as a speculator. And I'm just like, it was good intel. That's money. You gotta reach it. You gotta hand it to the nerd herd and the power of YouTube and people finding us out there. And speaking of Florida, again, we got a shout out to our friends in the Southeast that are reeling with the hurricane. Helene has really wrought havoc in a lot of places. So we're hoping all the nerd herd members are safe out there, and just be safe, guys.
Anywhere on the Gulf, I talked to Chris Carbine and Ann on the phone today, and it didn't even dawn on me to ask them if they had battened down the hatches and how they were doing. So forgive me, Chris and Ann. We hope all our friends in the Deep South are all doing well and surviving. For a lot of us out here on the other side of the Mississippi, we don't have hurricanes, and so sometimes they fail to land on a conscious of the severity and the gravity of what you guys are going through. Stay safe, everybody. We hope your connection stays on so we can entertain you for an hour during the blackouts,
Yeah, they need some Starlink over there. Yeah, it's going to be something, though. Anytime there's a big hurricane like this, this is going to be one of those situations where 2, 3, 6 months from now, we're going to have to really be careful of cars that are selling from that region, because, we're going to see cars with flood damage or hidden flood damage. That is going to be a real thing. And we always kind of poo-poo on Florida cars for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them. But back to this stupid Hellcat. I mean, it hasn't been in a flood, but I mean, really, somebody needs to drown it and put it out of its misery. This is such a stupid car for a stupid person and a stupid buyer. Anybody that pays big money for this is just a fool whose money needs to be separated from them. And it is funny, speaking of people reaching out to us on YouTube, there was a comment. We were talking about how this is such a douchebag car, and someone's like, Define irony. Two middle-aged white guys in black rim glasses and flatto brim hats talking about other people being douchebags. And I'm just like, yes, we are douchebags. Exactly. And that's what makes us an authority on the subject. We know how to spot them, right? But
you wouldn't get sex education from a priest. You'd turn on a blue movie, right? I mean, come on.
Exactly. Come on. I mean, we're not the ultimate douchebags. We're the penultimate douchebags because we are douchebags, but we don't like Hellcats. All right. What do you guys think of the results of this car? Was that well bought? Is that just what these are worth? It's certainly not representative of a surge in the market on BAT. I just think this type of car doesn't belong on BAT. We do see classic muscle cars and cool collectible stuff on BAT all the time, but this car just does not seem to fit the vibe. This is an enthusiast car to a certain extent, but it's such a narrow. I think the people that want these are just going to the dealership. They're the kind of people that just, I don't know, do they even know how to use the internet? What do you think, Deeb?
Yeah. It's very interesting, JP. First of all, I feel like that price is a slight resetting of the market. I think we can expect that from now on rather than the average that is old data. The other thing, JP, when you talk about these domestic cars for a domestic audience, Hemmings and Haggerty, if anybody could get 70 out of that car and not be 911R, then it could be a domestic heavy audience place. I agree with you that BAT might not be the perfect avenue for that type of car. There are other places where you have a domestic audience shopping domestic cars, and you could potentially do a little bit better. But who can bring a car better to market than the 911R? Typically, we don't see many people doing better than them. So I just think that's more of a reset in the market.
Let's move on from this one and take a look at the next listing that we analyzed and see if it jives with our idea that there is, in fact, a surge going on with collector and classic cars on BAT. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
JP, I want to make sure everybody in the audience is sitting down before we get to the result of this next car. We are going to look back again at the 1986 Porsche 944 Turbo. What's the big deal, you might ask? Well, this one's got an LT1. That's a 5.7 liter, basically like a Corvette engine under the hood. And it has the suspension and the roll cage and the seats and the wide body and the wheels and the brakes and the fairings and the wings and all the things necessary to attempt to harness all that power and still turn a lap time. I don't think this is a drag racing car, JP. I do think this is a car that's meant to be able to at least slightly handle in the turns. It's not a rear engine 911 with an LS3, but it is something. That being said, JP, these Frankenstein cars tend to not bring a lot of money. Usually we don't see people get very much of a return on their investment. So if you build one of these, you better plan on driving it for 4 or 5 years and depreciate that thing yourself because you're not likely to get what you spent out of it. John, our car was sitting at around $25,000 when we looked at it, and I gave you the bid that was just about $7,000 over that. My bid was $31,951. Surprisingly, JP, despite some of your early teething and frustrations with your own car that has a Chevy swap, you took the over on this car, saying, like, 944s might not be worth something, but there is definitely visibly a ton of money dumped into this one. And it seems like somebody's driven enough to have worked out the kinks. You took the over at $35,944. JP, one more time, I want to make sure our audience is sitting down. They're strapped in, mouthpieces in, helmet and chin straps on. Our car sold for $62,000 on 87 bids. They fought over it, JP. My God, get your car to market tonight. What the hell? Submit. JP, I don't actually think this result tells us anything other than there were two knuckleheads out there that thought this 944 was the coolest thing ever invented, and they fought over it. JP, in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have imagined this car would break 50. $62,000 isn't just all the money. It's ludicrous. Based on the bid count, I would say that this was not some thinly veiled, laundering of money. People really bid on this car, and it went for a long time, and they fought over it. A lot of people liked what they saw. in stark and sometimes harsh contrast to the car that you own that is rear engine, this car offers something much closer to 50-50 weight distribution. You've got arguably a lighter, shorter wheelbase car than your typical Corvette. And it's different. Let's just face it. It's different. It's very bodacious looking despite being gray. I know Anthony Vieira, our sugar daddy from Our Smiths, said, just buy a Corvette and get it over with. Certainly $62,000 to get you a pretty young Corvette that would give this car a run for its money, but this car is unique, and because of its lightness, it might actually compete. So I still don't understand why they went beyond $45,000, $50,000, but my God, JP, how shocked were you when you saw that result?
Yeah, I mean, holy crap. Anybody want to buy a slant nose? I am super stoked seeing the results of this. I literally went and so this car has status seats. My car has some terrible seats. So I found a pair of these. I bought them. They're going in the car. The FM10s on the Fiskey wheels, they're on this car. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you get this kind of power in these old cars, and you want to go period correct. You want to go with some wheels that are going to look right and evoke that kind of Kremer style era, right? Or the DPs or whatever, all those cars from that era. But you can't find tires that are wide enough. Like, nobody makes a 16-inch wheel or a tire with 315s. Yeah, I mean, 285s would be great. It's like you're lucky if you can find 255s in a 16 or two. That's about as wide as you're going to get. So my car's running 315s. I need that rubber because that thing is going to break loose if it doesn't have all the contact patch down. Anyways, we're not talking about that car. My car. We're talking about this 944 that brought $62,000. That is just bonkers. It's a neat car. But I do not get this. There were a lot of crazy negative comments in the auction for this thing, and I'm bummed that I didn't pay attention when this thing was actually closing. Some of those auctions, when we watch them, they can be pretty dramatic at the end. With 80 bids, a lot was going on. And I went back and looked at it later, and there's just all these flag comments. And there's just like comment flag, and then discussions about the comment flag. And it's just like, oh man, I wish I could have seen what this argument was about. This is crazy. So if anybody actually caught that while it was happening, let us know what the dish was and what everyone was arguing about, because I'm very curious. But none of the negative comments seem to matter because this car brought all the money in the world. And yeah, I can't wait to get my car up for sale. And anybody want to buy an LS3 slant nose 911, hit me up. I've got your car.
More power than this. Yeah, more power than
way
this
more
car,
power,
sure.
And cooler, and we could have a conversation about that. All right, what's the next car on those? Because I think this definitely, that car, if you just looked at that result, that's certainly a surge, because there ain't no way a 944 with a V8 truck engine in it is going to bring that kind of money just 2, 3, 6 months ago. So something's going on. What's the next car that we made a prediction on?
JP, you've spent a lifetime of your adulthood in advertising. Let me give you but wait, there's more.
Now how much would you pay?
Yeah. So, John, we are going to look in on the 1988 Porsche 911 Carrera Targa that is an M491 turbo look. So what we're talking about, JP, is a one of like 20 G50 equipped Carrera Targa with the turbo look. Our car was an alumnus on BAT, having sold previously in August of 2022 out of, I believe, the Netherlands, as it loads on my computer. No, out of Norway. At that time, the car had 53,000 miles, and it sold for $92,500. Presumably, the buyer brought that car to the United States, put it on a New Jersey title, cleaned it up some, and now the car shows the same basic odometer at 53,000 miles, and it has come back to market with very good photography by Michael Motors out of Neptune, New Jersey. So, JP, again, by the numbers, this is a very rare car. It is now on a clean U.S. title, which means somebody could borrow money if they wanted to from a bank to buy it. We know that these cars are rare by the numbers. This car also reminded me in a lot of ways about the car that Godden used for their Classic Challenge this year in the preservation class, where they cleaned up in Monterey, and they're going for nationals this week in LA for Luftgekühlt. So I thought this would be fun to check in on this car and get an idea of what the values for rare turbo look Targas could bring. JP, I thought this car would do well. I thought it was bought well. It looks like it's cleaned up. Even if they didn't spend a ton of money mechanically, I'm sure they serviced it, detailed it, brought it back to market. I thought they were in for a big payday. JP, I did the bidding at $153,000. You took the under by about, I don't know, I can't do the math, but $145,911 was your bid, undercutting my bid. JP, you and I weren't even close. This car sold for $170,000 on 53 bids.
Whoa.
So,
wow.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. One, they really did do a good job of selling the car by the numbers, but we were shocked. We haven't seen a turbo look bring this kind of money, I think, ever. And we typically, it's like if we were going to expect it, we'd be thinking of like G50, coupe, and like paint to sample, and maybe like even some like CXX like tartan interior or something crazy like that. We definitely wouldn't have expected on a low spec black Targa. Targas never bring the crazy money, and yet this one did. So the mileage, the provenance, the build numbers really drove the value on this one, but far beyond what you and I expected. $170,000 sets a new high watermark. And really gives me hope as I bring my car to market here later this fall or into the early winter. JP, what did you think when you saw the result of this car? Because we were all like jaw on the floor. That's a big number for a Targa. I don't care what kind of Targa it is.
Yeah, definitely surprised by this certain surge result. There's some money floating around out there, and I think the money is going to things like this that are kind of pristine and drivable and collectible, but aren't over aren't over $200,000. I feel like anything in that 200 and above is really getting hurt, but under $200,000, there's some mobility for nice cars. And let's face it, Targas are having a moment. And I'll take credit for it. I'm sure it's all because of the film I made for God and Porsche, and that got around.
For sure.
And everyone saw it and said they want to be, I'll take a bow. It's all me. No, I look, this is a big surprise, and no one in the herd, the average bid in the herd was $125,000. So
they're all below us.
Yeah, so it's not like anyone else saw this coming. So, boy, if you've got one of these in the garage, which a lot of people have kind of held on to these because they're just like, well, they're not bringing the big money like the coupes do. I think we'll probably see some of these come to market here soon, now that people are realizing that there is clearly a demand for them. So if you've got one, get it to market right now. Let's go. There's a surge going on BAT for collector and classic cars. We have new predictions to make, so we'll be right back with those after this. Oh, no, we won't. We got to do a lot. The God commercial isn't playing for us here. Talk about God and Classic for a second, Michael Deeb. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, your hosts met each other by being affiliated with God and Porsche because God and Porsche was the very first Porsche Classic partnership in North America. As such, they have the parts and the service, and every once in a while, an incredible inventory of classic cars. They can help you source the parts, the original Porsche genuine parts for your car, from a catalog of more than 100,000 parts by 10,000 different vendors. They also have service. So if you buy a part from them, it's warranted for 1 year. If they install it for you in your car in their service department, it's warranted for 2 years. And that's what sets them apart. God and Classic, they are your classic experts. If you have something that you need, buy or sell, parts or otherwise, service or otherwise, call God and Porsche and tell them the Bid Nerds sent you.
Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.
All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Our Smith's Fine Swiss Repair made this one-of-a-kind watch. We're going to give it away right here on Bid Nerds by the end of the month. That is October. I'm going to say in October, not September. People are asking about, apparently there are commercials playing on the show, not just the ones that we have programmed in, but YouTube is inserting them. Look, we don't have any control over that. Now that we're monetized, we've made $38, I think, or something like that. So, hey, it's better than nothing, you know. But
so I get a check this week?
Yeah, $14 coming your way. Yeah, it's so thanks for sticking around, guys. This is part of the growing pains. You know, we're a small channel and we're trying to get bigger, and we do what we got to do, and we'll see if YouTube will give us any money. It's unlikely, but whatever. Thanks for sticking around. All right. Is there a surge going on in prices on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, that sort of thing? We certainly have seen some evidence of that on the episodes or from the listings that we analyzed on the last episode. So we have some new predictions to make, and let's see if we think the prices of these cars are going to surge. What's the first car on our list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP. Ever the host pander to their guests and friends, JP's buddy, Adam Carolla, is selling one of his prized Datsun race cars, of which he is an avid collector of and has, I mean, arguably one of the greatest collections of that marquee or brand in the world outside of the Nissan factory. What we're talking about here, I don't know the year of the chassis. It isn't disclosed, but it is a Datsun 260Z race car with this incredible camel livery, which is pretty awesome. This would have been powered by a single overhead cam inline six, displacing 2.6 liters. This particular car is now powered by an L28, which tells me that it's 2.8 liter. And as a built race car with triple Mikuni carburetors built by Bob Sharp Racing out of Danbury, Connecticut, I'm guessing our car is making probably close to 300 to 320 brake horsepower to the tires as a normally aspirated car that competed in IMSA's GTU class, which is really cool. Based on street cars, but the U was unlimited, meaning I think you could modify the car just about however you wanted. There weren't so many major restrictions to aero or suspension or tire or brake, or probably not too many things you could or couldn't do to the motor. So I don't know how many races this motor was meant to last, if it was like one block in a state of tune that was going to last the season, or if the guys competing in this class had enough money to rebuild the motor after every event, and they probably had 8 to 10 races a year. They do 8 to 10 top ends on the motor, probably had several, blocks or whatever. Not exactly sure because I didn't read all the things that are extras that would come with the car, but what you're talking about is a historically significant car in the United States with an iconic livery owned by one of America's sweetheart celebrities who has real close ties to automobiles and motor racing. Adam Carolla is an avid collector and an avid vintage amateur racer who knows his way around the circuit. And this is a really cool car that if he's selling out of his own private collection, chances are a lot of the fine tuning and maintenance and things are up to date and that the car is really worked out. It is likely, and again, I don't know this for sure, a turnkey enjoyment car, a car that you could take right away if you just wanted to go circle the track or if you wanted to get into racing. This is probably a turnkey car. And if Adam is not including a host of spares, I bet he has some that he could sell you or point you in the direction to get the things you need to get into racing. Now, race cars have a very, very narrow appeal. This is not a broad appeal car. Many people must love the way it looks, but there are very few people willing to chunk out greenbacks for a race car. So, JP, determining the value of a race car is one thing, and then finding the buyer to pay that presumably retail number on an auction site when the car only runs for a week is an entirely different challenge. So there are many hurdles, many challenges on the road to the sale for Mr. Carolla. Despite his being the seller, it's his name as the seller. Having that sort of provenance does not guarantee that this car will find a buyer when it closes tomorrow here on Bring a Trailer out of Glendale, California. So the question I have, the question that's burning for all of us, JP, John, is your friend Adam Carolla in the nerd herd? Does he watch under, and what's his handle so we can all say hi to him? Is Adam watching tonight? Because we're covering his car?
I'm sure he's out there watching for sure. Adam has nothing else to do, but Adam's funny. If you ever get a chance to go to his studio, here's a picture of when we shot the show. Maybe let's see if I can get this to come up. Here we go. There it is. You can see the car in the background right there.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
that's Adam right there. Let's see if I can make it move over there. There's me and Adam. Porsche Road Trip available on YouTube right now on Cars Unknown. But yeah, no, he's funny because he's like, when you go into his shop, there's all these Paul Newman race cars, right? He's got tons and tons of cars in that shop. It's a beautiful studio shop. And he does this test to everybody. You walk in and he's like, yeah, look around. If you could choose any car in here, which one would you get? And everyone looks around, and he always has this one up on that pedestal there behind us.
Yeah.
And it's got the really cool livery, and it's got the big wheels and everything like that. And everyone's like, yeah, that one. And he's just like, yeah, you don't know shit, basically, is what he's doing. That even though it's a cool car and it's worth some money, it's probably the least valuable car in there because most of his cars are Paul Newman cars. So he has cars that are worth millions of dollars. But that one just pops because of that darn livery. And that's why I always tell people, it's like doing liveries on your classic cars to sell them definitely helps. And I looked around when he did it to me. I'm like, bro, I know what you're doing. I know all these other ones are worth more, but that's still the coolest one. He's like, oh, I can't give you a hard time now. So anyways, he's definitely not watching. If he is, Adam, give me a hug call. All right, what is this thing gonna bring? That's the big question, because it's interesting. Man. BAT is not pushing the fact that this is Adam's car. Like, I saw it and knew it was, and his name is the seller, but there's no pictures of him with the car. There's no videos of him with the car. I saw them post this car on, Instagram and Facebook, and there was no mention that it was his car or anything like that. So it is kind of interesting to see that they're really not trying to work that angle, oddly enough. Yeah. So, anyways, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP. Our car is in Southern California, and it closes tomorrow, basically 15 hours from now. It is currently at $50,760 on just 6 bids. JP, it's really hard to guesstimate the value of race cars, but given this car's rich history of racing in period, given the fact that it's celebrity owned, and given the fact that this celebrity has a reputation for having nice cars. I don't think he peddles pieces of junk out his back lot. I'm guessing this car is probably operational, ready to go. I wouldn't think that you'd buy it and it'd be immediately in need of a refresh of the motor or the drivetrain or anything else of that nature. So with that in mind, John, I'm guessing that this car should be worth somewhere between $100,000 and $120,000 easy, but the market is soft. I don't think, even with Adam's endorsement, that BAT is really the correct avenue to sell a car of this nature. Of course, he could give it a try, and he could be the exception. This car might bring 6 figures, but I wouldn't bet anybody that it does. And with that in mind, JP, I'm going to give you a much more bearish bid. My bid is going to be just $85,000, and if it hits 85 grand, JP, I'm going to say that it probably doesn't sell. If it's just 80 or 85, I'm guessing it's an FTS. If it sells for that, then he's either just letting it go, or maybe I'm just wrong about the value, and either one of those things could very easily be true. But I think if it gets to my number, I bet it's an FTS. I think because it's just kind of a cool car. Also, JP, this is a car that almost anybody in the herd could probably go and do a hot lap in. At 300 horsepower, and it probably weighs 2,000 pounds. This is not an intimidating car. This isn't like one of Rami's turbos. This is a car I feel like a lot of people could, like, it's a degree of dynamics that's approachable for most people. This would be if it wasn't for the cost and you wouldn't want to damage that beautiful bodywork, this would be a great starter race car for a lot of people that want to get into vintage. But this one's a little too nice, and it may not race. Maybe somebody buys it and just parks it in the garage like he has for the last few years. But 85 JP, and I'm just guessing that's an FTS at my number. Where are you at? You going to go over me? Or you going to go under me?
Adam, why didn't you give me a call? I could have taken better pictures of the damn car. I mean, this is a terrible listing, straight up. And the thing is, Adam Carolla has a whole team of filmmakers. Like, he used to have a channel on Chassis TV. That's how my show got on Pluto TV. And he has, or at least he used to have a lot of really talented filmmakers in his employ. I don't know if he laid them all off and said, screw it, this isn't working out, because all I'm getting is stupid road trip Porsche shows, and that didn't do that well. So I don't know. He should have called me. I would have loved to have taken photos and video of this car and really represent. I mean, this car would really pop if it were represented correctly. I mean, there isn't a single photo. Yeah, all the photos are horrible. There's junk in the background. The lighting is terrible. There's not one single 3/4 photo of the car from the front that isn't like on the ground. It's just an awful representation. The thing I'm wondering about this car, and maybe you could answer this one for me. To obviously, it's a race car, right? And we all know that. This car would be sick as a street car, but I don't know how much work it would be to get this car streetable.
Impossible.
I mean, it's
impossible.
Impossible? Just streetable?
Because first of all, if it's younger than 76, which I'm 99% sure it is, it'll never pass a smog. Second of all, then it's probably a plexi front window. You wouldn't be able to do a defroster. You've got no windshield wipers. You've got to do headlights and brake lights and blinkers. I mean, GP, it just, I don't know how you'd retro all this stuff, which is under there might be, it might be a silhouette. There might not even be a real 260 or 260Z under there. Could be a tubular race car. I don't know enough about it. But I would just say from where I'm sitting, cost prohibitive. It would be better off taking a 260Z and copying, like taking photos of this and just forming your own bodywork to rebody a 260Z. But taking that car and trying to make it past California to DOT, no effing way. I'm just saying no way.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe not California DOT, but if you did the Montana thing or something like that,
absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah,
you could put a dealer plate on that car and drive it to the Overton Run, and it'd be a blast.
Yeah, Rami would go buy this and just drive it home. He wouldn't care, right?
Absolutely.
And it would look just so cool. Yeah, it's a race car, so that obviously hurts it, but I don't think Adam's ownership is really going to make a big difference. And again, I don't think very many people know about it. Getting in and out of it's going to be a pain in the butt. But I am going to say it breaks 100, but not by much. I'm going to go 101, 260, and say it does sell at that number because, that'd be a lot for one of these. I'm just wondering why the hell he's even bothering. I mean, it was just pretty much a showpiece for him. It was a studio ornament, and I don't know what the point of getting an extra $100,000 for Adam Carolla really is. It's not like he's a bajillionaire like some celebrities, but he's certainly not hurting. So what is he doing even? I mean, just going through the trouble. He clearly couldn't be bothered to even take decent photos. So why is he being bothered going through the trouble of, what I want to know is who's answering the questions in the comments. Is
it's not
actually Adam or is there, does he have someone doing it? I mean,
no way.
Look, it says Adam Carolla, the seller.
Sure.
But is it actually Adam Carolla? Yeah.
That's a brand. That's a brand. That's a ghost. That's a ghost label.
Here we go, guys. I need to get the nerd herd to do me a solid. We don't ask you guys to do much. We don't ask for money. We barely ask you to subscribe or thumbs up or anything like that. But I need you to go on this listing. I'm not freaking kidding. Nerd Herd, please go on this listing and say, hey, Adam, I love your Porsche road trip show on YouTube. Just go remind him that we made the show because I don't think he even remembers. So go on there and say Porsche road trip on YouTube. I saw your episode. It's really great. Make more of them. Do that. Do me a solid. Go on there in the comments and see if anything happens. Look, McDeeb did it right there. I'm watching it. Eat a man. All right, Deeb's A-okay. Oh, boy. All right, guys. Let's move on because at $100,000, I don't think that really represents a surge in pricing for something like this because I think this car, honestly, if the market were better, I think it should do better. But I don't know. We could be surprised on the results of this one in a couple of days. Let us know what you guys think this car will bring. Everyone's hopping in around $100,000 like we are. What's the next car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, I think we stand to learn a little bit more from this 1979 Porsche 911 SC Coupe. Now, our car is a modified SC, but the donor car started out as a rest of the world example. So a car that is based out of San Jose. 79 predates the 81 17-digit VIN, so we can't see the ZZZ in the VIN. But as it's listed as an ROW car, I will tell you this. The gearbox in this car is enviable. It's a 915 gearbox that has close ratio second and third gear, which is kind of cool. Then they dropped in a retrofitted 3.2 liter flat six from a 3.2 Carrera. And of course, the big news, JP, you've got these beautiful Group 4 wheels that are extra wide, but they fit because somebody did turbo flares and a ducktail spoiler. And again, as it's an ROW, it's got those little European bumperettes. JP, this car just looks so awesome that despite my absolute gross detest of Guards Red, I was like, you know what? JP's going to love this car. I'm going to pick this one. So let's check her out. Listed on Bring a Trailer out of San Jose, California. The odometer is showing 183,000 miles on the retrofitted odometer. That means that the car was born with a kilometers odometer, and in order to bring it stateside, they had to change it over to miles to get it to qualify for DOT, to have it road registered. In this case, on a clean California title. So the donor odometer has 183,000 miles. You'd probably have to read the comments extensively to find out exactly what was on the car before they did all the work. Anyway, super neat car. JP, as I'm looking at this car, I'm starting to wonder, is this possibly Shoddy's car? I know Shoddy bought a couple of turbo looks. I have a sinking suspicion that we might be talking about Shoddy's car, and I didn't call him and ask him when I selected it. But there's our group stickers on the car. It's here in the Bay Area, and he bought two, and he only intends to keep one. And I think Shoddy bought this car, and he might be flipping it. And Shoddy, we have covered a couple of cars for Shoddy on the show. Famously, JP, there was that black RSR style car that didn't sell on 911R out of Arizona, and then he brought it back to market a couple months later, and it did really well that second time around, and we covered it the second time around. But I have a sneaky suspicion this might be his car. But anyway, the Group 4 wheels, the 3.2, the special gearbox, the bumperettes, the ducktail, and the turbo flares. JP, this car reminded me of you, and now it's starting to remind me of Shoddy. I love this thing. I think it's really cool. And I hope it does well. We saw that Targa turbo look bring an astronomical money. Could there simply be a surge in wide body Carreras? I, for one, will be watching this listing very closely. So JP, I send it back over to you. Arguably, you have owned more modified Porsches than anybody I know. I feel like you're the person to ask if a car is done well or done correctly, or if money was spent where it shouldn't have been and we don't expect to see a return on investment. I like this car. If this were just a plain red 79 SC from Europe, we could be looking at, $50,000 to $60,000 if the original odometer is not crazy. This car has way more extensive modifications than that. Do we expect to see this car bring more than the average SC price because of the mods and possibly because of the European provenance? What say you?
I don't think the European provenance makes a damn bit of difference, but the way this car looks in general absolutely will. This car is just hot. I mean, gold wheels are the only way to make a Guards Red car look good. And boy, do they on this car. That is just a fantastic combination for all you Guards Red haters out there. Just go get some gold wheels. Fixed. Problem solved.
JP, we've got Gerd on line 2, and he's saying, booyah.
Booyah, there you go. I mean, Deeb, how many millions of times have I told you to put your damn ducktail
on the
wide body you have in your garage? You have a ducktail. sitting right next to it, bolted on.
Yeah.
It's going to look
Yep.
like this. The T-tray, T-trays on M491s just to
Passe.
me look out of place. It's too big. It's too heavy. That's what's supposed to be in a turbo, and it just doesn't look right to me. Whereas the Ducktail says, yeah, this is a wide body, but it means business, and it doesn't need no stinking turbo because it's got a driver.
Yeah.
This car, the other thing I like about this car is that it's not perfect. I dig the imperfections, a lot of rock trips, a lot of scratches, a lot of dings. This is a driver quality car. Yeah, it's got the better motor, the 3.2. This car is ready to be the perfect hot rod. But I think the big problem that this car is going to have is like the car that we just talked about, Adam Carolla's 260Z, being a race car that would be next to impossible, or at least cost prohibitive to make it a street car because you can't smog it. This car can't be smogged in California either. This is listed by a dealer, and it specifically says that they can't sell it to someone in California because they're a dealer and because the car won't smog, which means the biggest market in the world for classic Porsches is California. Will this car be able to overcome that problem? And is the dealer just saying that to cover their legal asses, but will someone in California bid on this car anyway? Will they not read the small print? Will they make a bid, go and call the dealer to consummate the deal and find out that they're not allowed to? Or will the dealer say, hey, just go register it in Montana? All that said, Deeb, what do you think this will bring?
Yeah, those are really good questions, JP. And it gets even more confusing when you look at it, and it's on a California title with current California registration, but they will not guarantee that you will find the same success in carrying the car on in California. And if you can't sell it in California, you really do shorten, you're casting a much smaller net, and that could be a problem, JP. Our car closes tomorrow. It is currently at $28,000 by way of 12 bids. JP, I'd like to think that this, theoretically could be a $75,000 to $85,000 car. But even my initial blush, which is much more bearish than that, is just 65 grand. At 28, it would have to more than double to get there. And it's entirely possible that somebody can't buy this car and put it on a California plate next time around. So JP, I don't know, man. I'm just not that confident. I'm going to give another 30 grand, and I'm going to change my bid to $58,000. But I'm not saying that I think that's what the car is worth. I just think that that's where the car might hammer because it is slightly hamstrung by the notation by the seller of where they can and can't register that car. And while, really aggressive people can figure out a way, not everybody's cut that way. And so when you tell me, I can't have it in California, you're shutting down potentially half your audience, especially since the car is regionally listed out of California. So I do think that's tough. I think this car is probably a $70,000, $75,000 car because it would cost you a lot more to replicate that. But I don't think he finds even 60 grand, JP. And that pains me to say that turbo look Targa did so great. I don't believe this car will share the same success, and I'm not bidding with my heart on this one. I'm trying to inform the nerd herd of what I think this car will hammer for. It is not what I think it's worth. $58,000 to you, JP. What's your bid?
What transmission did you say this thing has in it?
It's a 915, but if it's truly a European SC, it will have a close ratio 915 that was never offered in the United States. That gearbox may not be worth more than $300 or $3,500, but I don't know where you go find another one in the States. I would, if I was hanging on to my car and had long-term vision for my car, I would replace my 915 with a European 915 out of an SC, and this car has it.
I think the surge is real. I think people are looking for cool hot rods. I think this is the kind of car that people want right now. This car is on sale at the right time. The California thing will scare some people away. I think a lot of people know that that's not really that big a deal. Somebody in the comments said they think that the car would pass smog in California. Well, it would have had cats on it, but the cats are deleted. I would think that you could throw some cats on it and it would pass smog, because it is an older car and you can just try to actually, and this is a 3.2 Carrera with the factory fuel injection system. They should run clean enough. If the engine's in good shape, it should run clean enough to pass. If you put some cats on it, that might be a problem. But overall, I think most people just know that they can get around that stuff. And I think California people with hot rods also know their way around a lot of stuff. It's certainly not going to get the premium money, but I think the premium is more like 110 or 120, Deeb. I don't think it's, 60 or 70 or even, 85. So, but I am going to say it is going to be held back. I don't think it breaks 100. I am going to go way over you and say 95, 911.
Whoa!
Wow. And,
right. I hope so.
It should sell at that.
Especially if it's Shotties. Yeah, if it's Shotties, right. I hope it brings all that money.
If it's Shotties, what's he doing selling it on? Why isn't he using 911R again? I mean, they brought him all the money for that last car. I think he'd be nuts not to go to those guys again. Another shot at the
I could be wrong.
And they would definitely represent it better than this car. I mean, the photos are okay, but what a great looking car. I think this is going to get a lot of attention. People are just going to
be like,
car. Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Super fun car.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. And we're still trying to ask the question, is there a surge going on with collector and classic cars on Bring a Trailer? We've seen some results from other cars that certainly suggest that there is. But we've taken a look at a couple of cars here and made some predictions. We've got one more car to make a prediction on, and I think this car is going to... Well, what's the next car, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, I want to start by apologizing to the nerd herd. We tend to shy away from cars that aren't in the United States. I picked this car kind of blind, but our car is listed out of Montic, Ontario, Canada. However, because of its youth, I do think it's a car you could bring stateside and switch it over from kilometers to miles per hour, and then everything else in the car is federalized for North America. So this is a car I do think you could bring stateside, obviously not to California, but to much of the rest of the lower 48. And what we're speaking about, the photograph that JP is showing us, is a 2019 Jaguar XE SV Project 8. Of which this is one of 300 examples built for the world. Basically, Jaguar took their sedan, gutted the thing, and then pumped up that 5-liter supercharged motor and created a car that could rival just about any two-door sports car available in the marketplace worldwide, with a 4-door sedan. So we're talking about huge tires, wheels, and brakes, a significant chunk of aero with an aggressive front splitter and a big raised rear wing. But they did a big, they just, all the luxury amenities that you expect in a contemporary Jaguar have been eschewed and ticked out of the car. You've got really aggressive racing seats. And then you've got this magnificent supercharged 5-liter V8 that is pumping out essentially 600 horsepower and just over 500 pound-foot of torque. Here's the thing, JP. I love me a sports sedan. I am that guy. I think they're amongst some of the coolest cars to drive. I prefer my sports sedans from the 80s and 90s with a manual transmission, but some of the modern sports sedans are incredible. The problem I have with contemporary sports sedans like the Alfa Giulietta Quadrifoglio, I'm looking at you as a fair comp to this car, even though you're only about 500 horsepower. What happens is the manufacturers who make these cars, and they try to get them to compete with other sports cars, is they make them so damn stiff that they're just not really fun to drive in town. Now, hell, if you lived in Vegas and you were doing the Overton run, this car would be a blast. But if you live San Francisco adjacent like I do, this car is virtually undrivable on California Street or Van Ness Boulevard. It's so stiff in order to get it to perform. Great on a closed circuit or a very smooth road like they have in Nevada. Terrible in California, where we have beautiful driving roads that haven't been repaved since I had prior to me hitting puberty, So these cars, despite their limited production and all the incredible stuff that Jaguar's special vehicle division could pump into this thing, who's buying used Jaguars these days? Nobody. Jaguar only brought a handful stateside, despite there being 300 built for the world. I'm guessing there's less than you know, 80 of these things stateside. They're out there, but they don't come to market very often, which I thought this would be fun to look at one, despite it being listed out of Canada. I do think you could bring it down, but not to California. Really cool looking car. I bet it's an incredible driver. I just don't know. There might be a lot of people that agree with me, and virtually less than 10% of those people who would actually plunk down money to buy one. So this winds up being a tough sell, JP. Numbered and offered to Jaguar's best clients and dealer principals. I don't think there were that many takers, and I don't think these cars are going up in value. JP, while you take it over, when we come back to me, I'll try to get the original MSRP on this thing, and I'm guessing that the number that it's going to sell for is going to be below that. JP, Gary has one. I'm sure you've seen it, but maybe I'm not. Are you familiar with this car? Have you seen Gary's? What do you think?
I'm sure I walked right by it. The only Jag that I've noticed in his warehouse is that, what is it, the Project 7, the two-door coupe?
Right.
That car is badass. This thing, I mean, so Jaguar is British for Hellcat? Is that what we're doing with this big stupid sticker on the back?
Touche.
And, you know, I mean, I'm looking at this photo. That's neat. You got what is it? Is it Saab? I mean, born from jets. This car's dumb. When I saw it on the list, I actually I was mistaken. I thought it was the Project 7 car. I got the two confused. Had I actually looked at the listing before we did the show, I would have nixed this. This is dumb. I could care less about this car. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's fast. But it's in Canada, and that's a ish whole country. So what's a stupid thing going to bring, if anything?
All right, JP, our car stickered for about $190,000 when it was brand new. The last two that have sold have barely brought $120,000, and both of those cars were sold in Great Britain in pounds, you know, for like, I don't know, 100,000 pounds or whatever the translation is. So these cars do not bring very much money in the secondary market. Anybody who bought one and speculated on the value of them going up is in for a rude awakening, and our car is showing a whopping 12,000 miles, which means somebody drove this thing. So JP, shockingly, our car is sitting at $88,000, which is way over where I expected to find it on 7 bids. Thus, I actually think this car will break $100,000, but not by much. My bid will be $108,000, and if it gets to that number, I think the guy should take the money and run. It'd be a fool if it breaks $100,000 and it FTSs. Then the seller is delusional. So JP, $108,000 to you. What do you think it's going to hammer for? What's your bid?
Well, that was going to be my guess. 108 was going to be since it's a Project 8 as well.
Yeah.
I gotta go bearish. I hate this car. I'm going to go 107. And I think it's DOA. I just don't think getting this thing into the country is too much of a pain in the butt. Nobody's going to want to deal with it. I know it's a collector car, and I know there are people that disagree with it and really like this thing, but who wants to go through the trouble? It's a modern sports sedan. There's other options that are going to be way less of a headache. But what do you guys think? It looks like the nerd herd is all over the place. Some people are in the 90s.
Yeah.
Looks like Sullivan was up there in the $155 or something. So maybe he knows something we don't. Is this something the nerd herd would drive? Jeez, I'd be embarrassed to be seen with that wing on the back. looks like O'Reilly's special that just bolted on. You know, something that some kid would put on the back of a Civic or something like that.
Look at the leaping cat decal on the back of the car.
Yeah, like the Hellcat. That's what the Hellcat does on the side of the what is it, Durango? the Hell Durango or whatever.
Every one of these things, which is kind of silly. It's a little boy racerist. And whoever designed this car, the front end of this car with those weird holes in it, it must be the same idiot that designed the Ferrari Roma. Which, by the way, take it. I would leave that car. The Roma does nothing for me. It doesn't look like a Ferrari. It looks like an Aston. It's terrible. And so the modern design language is missing. But I bet this car is a hoot to drive. I bet you it's got crazy power. Oh, well.
All right, guys. This weekend is Luftkult in L.A. Are you guys going? Who's going to be there? That's on Saturday, so we do have another show before that. We will be live here on Wednesday. We'll see the results of the listings that we just got done analyzing and see if they support the idea that there's a bit of a surge going on with collector and classic cars on BAT. So that'll be cool to find out the results of all these auctions. let us know if you're going to be in LA this weekend.
LA.
Maybe we'll connect with you. And we're going to close it out, not with the normal ending, but with another Our Smiths commercial. So we'll see you guys Wednesday night.
Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.